you're by yourself for a long time, it can be hard to trust yourself to be able to train. It can be hard to trust people that they will, understand this crazy thing that you're trying to tell them.
Yes.
And, help you grow it. And
hi, I'm Kyle Weckerly, certified professional ghostwriter. I'm glad you're listening as I welcome industry experts to share stories. You'll hear of lessons learned the hard way, overcoming professional hurdles, turning experience into actionable knowledge, and how to connect with your target audience. This is the Career Challenges Podcast. Welcome to the Career Challenges Podcast, and my guest for this episode is Kylie, and she's the founder and CEO of Acanela Expeditions. So Kylie, thank you so much for being on the Career Challenges Podcast with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to dive right in.
Awesome. Well, first off, of course, what is Acanela Expeditions, and what is it that you do?
Yeah, so Acanela is an adventure travel company, a small group adventure travel company. We operate tours or expeditions in about 100 countries around the world. Kind of think, fully packaged experiences that take you off the beaten track, everything from accommodations to meals to immersive experiences, kind of the whole thing. We have a lot of fun. I love this industry. I mean, I'm biased because I love to travel, but yeah, so we bring people to the adventures.
So that's quite a guarantee that you're putting out there, right?
Yeah. We definitely know the adventure space, so
awesome.
feel more than confident to put that out there.
Mm-hmm. So when I heard of Acanela Expeditions, I guess in my naive sense, because I travel, but obviously not as much as you do, I just assumed that to get into that, you obviously would have traveled a lot. How right am I in that assumption? And of course, how wrong am I?
Yeah, this is kind of funny, actually. A lot of people just kind of guess or assume that I grew up in a traveling family and I kind of have just traveled my whole life when actually that was not the case. I grew up in Northern Idaho. My family, we did do a lot of adventures in our own backyard, across the West Coast, but I didn't really truly travel international, say besides maybe Mexico and Canada, which weren't too far, until I was in university. So when I was at university, I had the chance to study overseas in Europe, and that was kind of opened the door to be able to explore not too far away from where I was living. I was based in England and then later in Portugal. And I just met people from my perspective then from all around the world and from all around Europe. And that's really what I would say gave me the travel bug. I've always been a very curious person. So I just would always, save up. I was a student. So I was very much budget traveling. I made do with what I had, but I just really loved it that I prioritized it. So yes, I've traveled a lot since then. But I would say I made it happen. I wasn't necessarily just born with it or given that. So it's kind of interesting. A lot of people don't realize. So I always tell anyone, if you want to, you totally can. You just have to be creative with, where your funds come from, how you plan for it, make time for it, and you can do it.
Mm-hmm. So looking back now, can you kind of point to a specific time where you realized, hey, I could do this, help people travel a lot. I could be the one running the show. You may not necessarily have known how to have done it, obviously, but I mean, where was that point for you? And then just where did it go from there?
Yeah. So the whole time that I was, traveling as a student, it was more study abroad type travel. So I was putting together my own experiences, but I wasn't necessarily doing it for other people. I actually started doing it at the end of my time in school. I was at BYU and I was helping professors and students with their programs. I wasn't my job, right? I wasn't making money doing it. I just love to help. So it wasn't until I graduated, actually, December of 2015. So coming up on just 4 years ago, that actually it was. I had just gotten married. My brother-in-law sat me down. I married into a big business family. Grew up in Hong Kong, just everything business. But I remember him telling me at that point, actually, at Acanela, what we were doing is we were bringing the travel experience to people through food, through spices. So Acanela was actually a spice company. It's a long history, but we made a big pivot when my brother-in-law sat me down and said, "Hey, Kylie, have you ever thought about actually doing trips? You're really good at it. You're passionate about it. And I think there's a lot more revenue in that." And I mean, I wasn't a savvy business person. I just thought, yeah, that's a great idea. Let me try to put one trip together. And if it's successful, meaning it was a great experience, the people would book again and it was profitable, even slightly, I would just put the profits into the next trip. And that's what we did. And we've never looked back since. I mean, there's been a lot of hurdles and challenges along the way, but that was really one of the inflection points or moments that changed things for me.
Awesome. So what was that first trip like? I'm sure there was a lot of anxiety, but I mean, for a first timer, how did you approach that? And of course, what did you learn from that experience?
Yeah. So I chose a place I had been to before, right through my backpacking experiences as a student. So at least I was familiar with the location. I knew a lot of people there. And I had the right connections, which I think was really huge, but as far as team on the ground. But the first destination was India, which I always tell people, I do not recommend choosing India as your first trip to lunch for an American audience. It's not necessarily on everyone's bucket list as a leisure destination. But I loved it. I fell in love with India when I was backpacking, and I just really felt like I knew it well. I knew the people who would facilitate the experience. I scrambled and I think we had 5 people on that trip. One of them was my mother, so 4.
There you go.
And it was a huge success. I mean, we saw and experienced things that weren't just things that tourists experience. And all those people that actually went on that first trip are still people that travel with me today. A couple of them are ladies. I actually give the nickname our angel investors because they will go on any first trip, no matter how many hiccups there might be. Because when you're scouting something or doing it for the first time, it's a very different experience than if it's already been replicated over and over and over again. Yeah.
Awesome. And so, I mean, do you pick a destination, or does somebody come to you and say, I want to go here? Can you put something together?
A little bit of both. When I was first doing trips, I was going on all of them. I was not guiding them. I had that solely done in country, but I was going on them, you could say, as the host. And what I was doing is I was choosing destinations that I was seeing interest. I was seeing people have interest in strategically, so I knew I could get people on them. I started getting smarter about that as we grew. But now what we do is we have about 100 trips built out, pre-curated, that are very well created, very dynamic, and I would say a lot of people choose to book those. They're small groups, so they feel very unique and custom. But we also do custom experiences, usually more for groups that come to us, so more than just 1 or 2 people. So a bit of both, but we've gotten pretty good at knowing in advance what people are going to ask for.
Okay, so you claim to bring people to the adventure. Of course, how do you find said adventure? I'm curious here.
Yeah, so I mean, just from me getting my feet wet traveling when I was a student, I since have been to over 100 countries, and really we're still at the stage where a lot of the adventures that we put together are actually ones that I've experienced firsthand as a Western traveler, and they're also hosted by my friends around the world. I'm all about making friendships first before doing business. You'll hear me say that a lot, quote that a lot, and it's so true. And so, we're really, really able to put together these unique adventures because it's done on a more local level. I would say it's not just something that's already been packaged for hundreds and thousands of tourists to come. It's really something that is like specially created based on what I have experienced or what now other members of my team have experienced in country, and really spend a lot of time talking with the locals and building friendships and kind of going behind the scenes into things. So it could be a culture adventure. It could be a culinary adventure. It could be like trekking Mount Kilimanjaro adventure. That's a very high adventure.
Yes.
But yeah, the closer you are to the people and the place, the more adventure you can bring into things. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. So the hosts from the countries are suggesting these things for your groups to do.
Yeah, it's very much like a co-collaborative process. I totally believe that nobody knows a country better than a local that's from there. And so we
Obviously.
100% draw so much inspiration and talent from our team around the world.
Definitely. Definitely. So then I have to ask, was there a trip that just kind of, it seemed like a good idea, paper, you get there and, something doesn't work out. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to have been a disaster, but it just was kind of like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done that, or maybe we should have done a little more research before we went in. Was there an experience like that?
Yeah, so it's funny. I kind of mentioned to you earlier, we have two types of trips. We have expeditions. Those are ones that we've done many
Mhm.
times and they run pretty seamless. Then there are the ones that typically I go on for the first time with this, group of people who want to join me on that type of experience. And I call that an exploration. And we make it very clear that, hey, there might be some things that happen. And yeah, we have definitely had hiccups and challenges on those. And I can tell you, well, the first time that I went to Peru with, my exploration group to scout it out, we were Machu Picchu, woke up really early in the morning, to go up to the top, and our guide just didn't wake up. And so
Oh no.
we were like, I was still very young at this time, or like 20, 21. And I just remember not knowing what to do because I'm like, oh my gosh, we're here in Peru to see Machu Picchu and our tickets are for today. We leave today. If we don't have our guide and, I don't know how to get up there. And, it ended up working out really well. Luckily, I was traveling with people who, were very understanding and actually helped solve the problem. But it was probably at least an hour or two later that we found our guide. He had just slept through his alarm. But I remember feeling so panicked in that moment, not necessarily because it was a life or death thing, right? But because, I wanted to live up to the expectations that, I had set, being able to do all these things. And so that happens frequently on exploration trips. And it's actually become, those challenges and hiccups and trials have actually become like a core piece of those experiences, because
Really?
that's what true exploration is.
Mhm.
Yeah. Someone has to go through those hiccups to be able to smooth it out for everyone else going after, right?
Definitely. And you're the one taking that risk.
Yeah, I love it actually. Those are my favorite trips, and I think they've actually quickly become the favorite trips of other people in our travel community too.
Awesome.
You have to know it going into it, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. You have
Yeah.
to expect that something's going to go wrong. So just be prepared for that, right?
Yes.
Yes. So then obviously there's places in the world that may not necessarily be safe for people from the US, or there's just political unrest. Um, how do you keep an eye on that? Because there's some places that I wouldn't think would be bad, but they turn out to be not really a safe place to go. How do you stay on top of that?
Yeah. There's a lot of, there's definitely, when you start to expand into a lot of countries, you have to be aware, not only country by country, but regionally within countries, what's going on. And sometimes, we plan trips out sometimes 2 years in advance where, things can happen,
Hmm.
in a matter of days, and we have to be flexible to move. I think the key core thing for us has been relationships, having relationships with, people in political power and or embassies, people that are on the ground who can almost give us a forewarning into
Hmm.
what's going on. And if something, does spark, I'm thinking of places like, Egypt. We do a lot of trips in Egypt,
Hmm.
very safe country. But every once in a while, things can spark up regionally that you really have to be able to, move people quickly, just so that, not necessarily even to keep them from danger, but more to, keep them calm and not, over exaggerate anything, because the media can definitely paint a picture that isn't necessarily true. And sometimes there is real danger that we need to make sure to move on. So I'd say it's really comes down to having those relationships and connections and essentially alarms in place that we make sure we hear about it before anyone else, and just monitoring situations closely. So yeah, security when you travel is a big thing to keep in mind. Usually things never happen, which is great, but it's important to be aware.
Yes, definitely. I remember my pastor, he traveled to Greece a
Yeah.
few years back, and this was when there were riots happening in Greece, I think. He said, there was that happening, but in specific cities, and he knew that going in because he had friends in the area, because he does a lot of missions to Moldova specifically, but he's been to Eastern Europe a lot. He said, it really wasn't that bad. I just knew not to go to those places, and me and my wife ended up having a great time. So I was like, oh, that's good to know.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. It's very much, like I said, regional. A lot of times we just see it as a country by country basis because that's how the media talks about it, but
Mm,
it's usually quite regional. Yeah.
true, true. So I'm looking on your website, and I was watching a couple of your vlogs, and you mentioned travel with impact, travel with an impact. Can you explain to me what you mean by that?
Yeah. So we have a really unique model in travel in the sense that we work directly with locals. So
Hmm.
when I refer to, my team or our team around the world, I'm really talking about our guides, boutique hotel owners, country directors, like people literally on the ground. So we kind of strip all those middlemen and just really work with our team in country. And the cool thing about travel is a lot of people don't know this. It actually contributes about 10% to the world GDP, which is about
Wow,
$7.7 trillion. Mm-hmm. And a
that's
lot
a
of jobs are
big
held by
number.
women. Yeah. A lot of jobs are held by minority groups like women and rural communities. And so, just going into it as a traveler, I saw so much opportunity as an individual traveler myself to have a positive impact on all these small businesses just by deciding where I was going to spend my dollars. So when I, was building Acanela, thinking about going to India for the first time, really my whole focus was through travel, how do we help quote unquote tourists or travelers, sustainably help build local businesses around the world, micro enterprises. And so that's, our kind of method of impact is sustainable growth, business growth of locals. So
Mhm.
it really is value given, value created, value given, right? And so it's sustainable. We test the model every once in a while. If we were to pull out like all of our all
Mhm.
of our travelers, if we were to take away, the market that we're supplying with these small businesses that, we helped grow and or helped start, would they still be able to flourish and function? And if the answer is yes, that to me and to us is a very sustainable method to grow businesses. If the answer is no, then we need to go in and really work with that leader
Mhm.
to, optimize their team and their company in a way that they can. So it's been really cool. We've been able to grow, hundreds of small businesses around the world. We're hoping to expand that to thousands over the next couple of years and really be able to just sustainably monitor the impact. Because there are so many talented leaders, so many in countries that you would never expect because we
Mhm.
only hear one side of things. And
Yeah.
it's really cool to watch them succeed.
Awesome. Awesome. And so you mentioned you have different types of trips like culinary trips or expedition trips. So when you go into a country with a specific, I guess, goal for your expedition or your group, how does that determine what kind of people you talk to there and what kind of businesses you work with?
Yeah, so we have a lot of different focuses. Culinary adventure. A lot of them are more of I would say, broad, like culture mixed with adventure and culinary. That's a
Hmm.
very, people get a taste of everything. That really depends on, that kind of determines who we work with. We work with a lot of women to put on private dining experiences in their homes, cooking classes. That's a piece of of our experiences, but obviously is heavier in the culinary focused experiences.
Hmm.
Maybe ones that are, more active, like hiking Mount Kilimanjaro. That's one of my personal favorites because our guide there, our in-country director, Abdul, he's actually been able to build his business to a point that he employs, I think, 30 men in his village, which is super cool. So you
Wow.
are literally climbing the mountain, like supporting a village, but they're supporting you, right? They're actually the ones really building you up and supporting
Wow.
you going up the mountain. So it's just like a really, and it's done in a way where people like, it's because of the talent and the hard work and the leadership of the people in country that like allow them to flourish in their jobs. And to me, that's just so cool to see. It's a very sustainable way to grow. And really, it just takes a little bit of mentorship and a little bit of education and, initially supplying a market. which
Hmm.
is super cool.
Awesome. Awesome. And so you mentioned, those cultural experiences. My wife and I went to Maui, which, I know
Yeah.
it's not as exciting as going to Kilimanjaro, but I remember we went to a luau, and I thought it was really great because I got to see all these different Polynesian cultures that they're represented there. But I also realized this is really a touristy thing, and they're really playing that up. And so part of me was like, I really wish I could have done more. I had more of that experience there, even just in Maui, which is technically part of the United States. And so it's like,
Yeah, a
I
lot of
feel there,
culture.
yeah, there is
Yeah.
a lot of culture. I just felt that, maybe I could have done more. There could have been more experiences like that. So um, definitely been cool.
It's hard if you don't know where to look, right? And so it's definitely not, and I'm a true believer that you have a great experience either way, but if you can go a few levels deeper to really connect to the locals, sometimes it just allows you to connect and remember the place and people a bit more. So
Hmm.
cool.
Definitely.
Maui's beautiful.
Yeah, I loved Maui. We'd want to go to Kauai, but we haven't been able to do that yet. But I did like how it was just very chill there. It was a very
Yeah.
relaxing vacation. Our last day there, we were going to do one or two more like touristy things, but my wife really wanted to get cabana on the beach too. And so we were told go reserve it in the morning so it doesn't you don't lose out on that opportunity. And we reserved it, and they walked us out there and they said, "This is your cabana. It's yours all day, so you can come back if you want to." And so we put our stuff down, and I told my wife Kelly, I said, do you want to go, or do you want to sit here for a little bit? She goes, "Let's just spend the day here." And so we literally spent the day in the cabana, reading books, going random walks, getting food delivered to us, and it wasn't a day wasted. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just so nice, and it's one of those like. I know we had done a lot of stuff. We had a lot of pictures and all these experiences I get to talk about, including that luau. But that I think really stood out to me because I'm like, we relaxed, and I
Yeah.
think that was kind of the point of the trip too.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's cool.
Yeah, awesome. In your questionnaire before we started recording, you had mentioned putting together a team, and the challenge that comes with putting together a team. Can you go into that?
Yeah, I think, when you start something and it's just you, right? The challenge is, okay, how do I get this thing, or in my case, this, service business off the
Mm-hmm.
ground? And that's, honestly for me was, I would say, a much easier challenge compared to fast forward to just a couple years ago, where I completely shifted my focus to, okay, this thing is working. How do I scale it? Well, I can't scale it alone. I need to grow a team. And that's a completely different skill set, especially for someone like me who has the personality of a lone wolf achiever, right? I'm an
Mm-hmm.
athlete. I'm used to setting goals and getting there. And it's definitely, it's been really good for me and stretched me in so many ways. But, it's been very challenging to really shift my focus from being, what am I doing, to move this thing forward, to how do I empower and build and train, this team of incredible people around me to do, specialize in these things that will really help us grow. And that can be really hard at first. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to trust,
Mm-hmm.
people who, when you've been working on something, you're by yourself for a long time. It can be hard to trust yourself to be able to train. It can be hard
Yeah.
to trust people that they will, understand this crazy thing that you're trying to tell them
Yes.
and, help you grow it. And, there's just a lot of pain points as well when you've never had certain roles. You can't just expect someone to go in there and for you two to be able to work together and just really, straightforward. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be bumps. There's going to be things that don't work. You're going to set goals and realize they're way off. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
fall behind, and it's just a part of the journey. And I've had to be okay with that, because when you're, very focused on efficiency or very focused on high performance, or a lot of things that typically entrepreneurs, I would say, have those traits, because they wouldn't have grown their business if they weren't, you know, doing all those, types of things. And it can be hard to completely kind of let those go or put them to the side to really focus on, it's okay to be inefficient. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay if something doesn't work. It's okay if it takes longer. But what are the learnings from it? What are the data points? And how do you take those to grow more roles and grow a team? So I'm still learning this. talking about it like I know the
Sure.
answers, and I'm so far from the answers. I'm in this challenge right now. We've grown to a small team, which is awesome. But now it's about, okay, how do we break those roles in half and grow it even more? It's hard. It's very hard. But
Definitely.
there's definitely reward and success that comes from it, which is why I'm very big on building the team, no matter how hard it is.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious, with your specific type of company, are you looking for, a COO or, a director of management or office manager? What kind of roles I guess are unique to your company? And of course, how are you um, refining your search to fill those roles?
Yeah. So we kind of have our team broken into three main, I would say, like areas of our business. Sales, marketing, and operations is kind of how we break them out. Obviously, we have, HR, legal, finance. Those are much smaller buckets, though, and we aren't necessarily growing those teams as quickly. But yeah, I mean, the reason actually why I moved back to Utah after being based in California was because I went to school in Utah and I had a network there. And I realized, if I want to recruit, have office space, and be able to grow this team, I need to be in an area where I can really thrive in that environment. And it's been great. So, we actually do not have a shortage of people applying to work for a travel company. People love travel. I mean, we get a lot of applications, a lot of people wanting to work for us. But the tricky thing for me is actually not even matching people to roles, but actually, being able to pull people on in a brand new role and making sure that it's sustainable when it's never been done before, and there's definitely some hard lessons with that. But the nice thing for us is it's actually not a challenge to get people's interest to be recruited. It's more of a challenge to onboard them in a sustainable way in a role that will just be, there for them to grow in for the next few years, especially when we're recruiting millennials, which is my demographic. We move around. We move from thing too quickly. It's one thing to the next too quickly. So it's just something that's been, I've really wanted to make, our place a spot where people can stay for longer than average, which is cool.
Yes, definitely. So what kind of resources are you utilizing to build your team? Like any sort of courses or books or thought leaders that you're following?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I follow a lot of thought leaders in just the business, entrepreneurship, leadership or executive space. We do a lot of our trainings in-house. I mean, our company is kind of unique. We're not tech, we're in travel, but we approach it a really unique way. So we've kind of created our trainings in-house. But I mean, I work with a business coach. I follow people like Sarah Blakely. She's, many people know her as the first self-made female billionaire. She just balances things really well. She's a mother of 4 kids, in her early 40s, still works as a CEO, has built an incredible team of people who really admire her as a leader. And, there are definitely people like that in this space. I think it's important to follow and important to learn from. So we definitely, we actually do trainings. We try to do trainings on our team once a week where we bring in someone to talk, as well as I'm always throwing out events to my team, encouraging people to go, because it's so much is about learning. I mean, if the moment you stop learning is the moment I believe you get disinterested in what you're doing, right? You always need to be growing and learning, and that's really an important part of what we do at Acanela. So, yeah.
Would you like to be a guest on the Career Challenges podcast? Go to careerchallengespodcast.com to find out how. While you're there, check out other episodes and download them through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, Castbox, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. The Career Challenges podcast is hosted by me, Kyle Weckerly. I'm a certified professional ghostwriter who works with business thought leaders and industry experts to write polished manuscripts, assess their publishing options, and create book marketing plans. I've worked with consultants, high-ticket salespeople, coaches, speakers, C-level executives, and business owners. My authors have worked for USAA, Vistage, Booz Allen Hamilton, Austin Technology Council, and the John Maxwell team. My authors want to write a book to serve as a platform for their marketing endeavors. They know that becoming an author will help them secure speaking gigs, market their expertise, promote a product or service, and more. Are you ready to turn your experience, knowledge, and stories into actionable advice and connect with your ideal client? Then visit weckerlywriter.com to schedule a consultation today and begin your publishing journey. That's weckerlywriter.com. weckerlywriter.com. And now, back to the Career Challenges podcast.
No, you're good. There's a good book too. Is it a book, Fail Hard, Fail Fast, or Quote? There's a lot of good books that I've read. I'll be honest. I haven't had time to read in a very long time.
Sure.
I haven't made time to read. It's definitely, balance is something that can go way out of whack when you start growing. So that's something I'm trying to regain in my own life. But there's a lot of books on my list that I'd love to read again. Yeah.
Definitely. Right now I'm reading Living Forward by Michael Hyatt and Daniel Harkovic or David Harkovic. And it's about building a life plan. Yeah. And they specifically have a chapter on balance. And their approach to it is that you'll never have this balance where everything is equal. You give this much to your job, you give this much to your family, you give this much to your hobbies. That there will be times where you're obviously going to be working more, or there's going to be times where you're going to spend more time with your family. So then my question to you, Kylie, what does balance mean to you?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think I was listening to someone. I love going to events and listening to people speak. And I think I was talking with someone and they actually said, there is no such thing as balance. You will never be like this. You're always going to be like this or like this. But the idea is that you're always shifting, right? You're always trying to put equal focus on things. It's probably just not going to be at the same time. And that's very much how I see that's kind of the spectrum that I'm in right now. I would definitely say the nice thing for me is I'm in a lifestyle business, right? So I love what I do, travel and learning, photography, music, culture. A lot of the things that I love that I would consider my hobbies are actually kind of bucketed underneath my business. And so I can technically, check off a lot of check boxes with, going on a trip or actually going out and experience what we're selling, which is really nice. But it also can be hard because everything ties back to business, right? So I could technically say 90% of my life is sleeper business, right? And this is something I'm focusing on even more so now because I've noticed that as I've loved growing my business and I've seen success doing it, it's been hard to say no. To no, I'm not going to work on this tonight. I'm going to play my guitar, which is a hobby of mine that I don't get to do very often. Or no, I'm not going to work on my business. I'm going to read this book that isn't tied to my business at all, but it's going to bring me joy. And it's going to be, something that I've always wanted to read. Or, whatever that might be. And I think it's just like being okay saying no and being okay saying no to things that in your business mind, it's not logical because, right, the more time you put into your business, the more success you're going to see. That's the tricky thing with owning your own thing. Yeah. So it's just, you can't think that way. And I've really had to kind of shift, I don't want to lose my hobbies in pursuit of, this business, which I learn a lot through. And I'm just lucky that I do get to keep a lot of my hobbies through a lot of the, business activities that I do. But it is really important to separate. Leave your computer at home. If you can't work from home, try to get involved in a co-working space. There's a lot of little tricks that I did when I was first starting because I noticed that my personal and business life were just intermingled too much.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good fit at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, true. So, bring it back around to books. You had mentioned Grit by Angela Duckworth as one of your favorite books. So why that book, obviously, and then what have you gotten out of it yourself personally?
Yeah, I am a big fan of, I love watching TED Talks and I love watching and listening to inspirational things. And that's actually usually what sparks my interest in reading a full book. So I listened to a TED Talk by Angela Duckworth about grit. And I went after it. The moment I finished listening to it, I thought, I have to read this book. So I went and got the book. I read it. I just felt like she was explaining like all the things that like I knew to be important, but in ways that I'd never thought about them before. So grit really is, right, the marriage of passion and perseverance. And those are two things that I found are so, so key in pursuing anything, a hobby, a business, whether you're an athlete or you're a musician or you're a writer or you're starting a business, you have to be passionate to continue going, and you have to have the perseverance to overcome and go through like pretty hard challenges that will knock you down flat on the ground. And it was just so cool to hear that like from someone and hear all her personal stories and the personal stories of so many successful people. It was just really relatable as well. So yeah, I've actually read it twice. I recommend it to lots of people. And I just think the more we can really develop grit, like the more we're going to be able to, not just be successful, but really be able to grow and develop to reach our full potentials, which is so important to me. And it's important. I want to help my team do that. And I think it's just really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I've heard of the book. I haven't gotten to read it yet. So
it's a good one.
Yes, I'll definitely have to go out and find it. So, yeah. So you were saying with grit, marrying passion and perseverance. How does that play into you building this business, Acanela Expeditions?
Yeah, I mean, both those things. I think that's why it resonated so well with me, right? I took something that was a passion of mine, and I actually wouldn't, when I nail down or go to the core of what I'm passionate about, travel is actually just a vehicle for me. So I am passionate about learning, and I'm passionate about being in diverse environments, and I'm passionate about curiosity, and those are like at their extreme in travel, right? You're in a new environment, everything's new. If you're a curious person, you're just like on looking everywhere, and there's just so much to learn. So, I had that passion and was able to take that and kind of marry it with perseverance in the sense that, starting a company is not easy. It's easy to look back now and be like, oh, we did all these trips. But I mean, from day one, there were doubts. I doubted if I could do it. A lot of people told me I was crazy. Travel, everyone wants to be in travel. There's so many companies, good luck, go try, maybe you'll get a few free trips out of it. I had supportive people as well, but for every supportive person, you're going to get, criticism. And it takes a lot of mental toughness, and it takes a lot of just being willing to let go of things and to move forward, and so there's just a lot of perseverance that's needed. And the funny thing is, a lot of people think, once you get past that, you've made it, or that, your business isn't going to die, or you're in a more solid spot, it's going to get easier. And actually, it doesn't, easier is a choice. There's always going to be hard things. The more people you involve in things, the more emotions there are. We take thousands of travelers around the world now, and there are definitely a few people that, don't have the best experience because of weather, because of a mix-up, whatever that is. And, it's hard. It's really hard to take criticism, and it's going to happen. And so having perseverance, for me, is something I have to actively work on. And it's just know I'm not alone. A lot of people have to go through that, and it's a part of learning. It's a part of growth. Yeah,
definitely. So where did this passion to learn come from? Can you, I guess, point to a specific, moment where you're like, oh, I really enjoy doing this? And then I guess, obviously, you may not have realized it at the time, but when did you come to learn, okay, I do have a passion for learning, and, I want to pursue that more?
I would honestly say, since I was a young girl, from as far back as I can remember, I was always involved in things. I was doing sports when I was super little. and I wanted to learn everything. So I would see something. It could have been on TV. It could have been like, in a movie, or it could have been like watching my dad play City League basketball and wanting to be able to shoot and make a basket. And so I think was very observant as a little kid and always asked why. Oh, like, how did you do that? Why did you do that? I want to do that. And then I just loved being hands-on and involved. And so I think that like willingness and ability to question everything, probably to my parents' dismay, like,
did they ever tell you stop asking questions?
I think my mom always said my favorite thing to say was, because of why? Because of why? Like, why is this happening? Why is the sun blinding my eyes when I look at it? All these crazy things. And I'm sure it got annoying to them at times, but they, it helped me learn. And also they were very patient with me, and they were very kind in teaching me and letting me, shoot the baskets hand on, letting me go, skiing in my little, with my little leash, as my dad is like making sure I don't fall down the mountain. And so I got to experience things, and that was really joyful for me. So I think I now associate learning with joy, learning with discovery.
Wow.
And that's why I love travel so much, because travel to me really truly is an exploration. I'm going into an unknown area that I've never been and get to just see and breathe and hear and talk to all these incredible people and places. And it's just exciting.
Awesome. So what sports did you do? You mentioned you're an athlete.
Yeah. So I played a lot of sports in high school. And then I played basketball in college and university. So I would say that was probably my sport. I'm now more of a runner. I actually don't play basketball that much, but I do love being active. I enjoy like really feeling my body work and move. And I think it's just something that I've done my whole life, right? I like being hands-on on things. So yeah, softball, track, volleyball, soccer, basketball, I've probably played them all at one point.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I wasn't really, I did have athletic skill, but I never really pursued that. Now I kind of regret it. But my wife got me into running. So you mentioned running. So I was like, hey, running.
Yeah. That's a sustainable one. That's good. You can do it anywhere, everywhere.
Yeah. And then I know people who, they're running in their 60s and 70s. I'm like, I'm just going to keep doing that. Because right now we're near the end of November. In a few weeks, I'm going to run a half marathon here in San Antonio on the Rock and Roll.
Cool.
And then they have half marathons around the world. One of them is in Dublin. Another one's in Edinburgh. I'm like, I would love to go there and just run there. So that's on my bucket list.
You get to see a whole nother piece of nature when you run in another country, because you have a certain set amount of time and you can only move so fast, right? Because you're not in a vehicle. You get to just really like take in everything. I think it's actually one of my favorite things to do is run through cities in the morning when the markets are coming up, or through the countrysides when I'm on trips. That's cool. Yeah, do that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I want to do that. So are you going to be running any half marathons or marathons, or are you a leisure runner?
I love trail running, so I have to run outdoors. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have run a couple of half marathons in the past. When I was living in Europe, I did actually most of them there, but I've actually the past 3 years signed up for a marathon and trained halfway for it. And every single time I've had a trip come up. I've been out of town. So the marathon is still on my list, but I definitely want to experience one. I want to see, if I like it, if I want to do it again. For me, right, it's that exploration. I'm just curious what it's like. And it also is a nice way to challenge yourself to prepare for something, right? So
definitely.
In the upcoming, no, I don't have anyone that I'm committed to, but there's a few on my radar that I would like possibly to do.
Yeah, definitely. I do feel I need to point out that even though I do train and run a lot, my wife leaves me in the dust every time. So I have to say that.
Strong women.
Yes, she is very, very strong. And luckily I have 2 daughters. They're both taking after her. I see so much of her strong-willed strong
Yeah.
will, however you're supposed to say
Strong
that.
will, yeah.
Yeah, in both of their personalities, and they're not even 5 yet. So I'm very fortunate for that, but also it is a challenge because
Yeah, that age.
I want an ice cream sandwich tonight. Well, no, you can't have one because you didn't eat your green beans. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Oh.
so enough about that. But what's next for Acanela Expeditions?
Yeah, so we have some exciting things planned for 2020. We're doing a lot of revamps, getting a new website. I actually originally built our website as of now, so that's much needed. We're launching about 20 to 25 new trips next year. We're launching a whole new kind of series of trips, and we have actually some media projects on the works too. So we're going to be kind of really ramping up the content creation element of our trips, which is really exciting for some of the people going on them. So I'm excited. I will be going on most of those trips next year, and I'm really excited to kind of see, essentially the experiences we can bring to people online, on a screen, if they're not able to join us at this moment, which is really exciting to me to be able to share some of these stories that I've experienced. But yeah, so a lot on the horizon, and I'm sure a lot of things that I don't know are coming yet, both good and bad. So stay tuned for that.
Definitely. So where can people find Acanela Expeditions if they want more information?
Yeah, so you can find us on our website. It's acanela.com, spelled ACANELA.com. And we have a lot of great expeditions up there. You can find us on all major social channels, and we have very easy links to call or email or chat with us. And we love to chat travel, even if you just have questions about a destination or anything like that. It's our expertise. So feel free to ask.
Definitely. Well, Kylie, thank you so much for being on the Career Challenges podcast with me today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Excited.
Thank you for listening to the Career Challenges podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and like the Career Challenges podcast on your favorite podcasting app. Visit careerchallengespodcast.com for more information. Schedule your free consultation with Kyle Weckerly by visiting weckerlywriter.com today. That's WECKERLYWRITER.com. Thank you.